Between Newton and Einstein, who had a greater impact on the history of science and who contributed more to humankind? Upon facing this question in 2005, the majority of scientists from the United Kingdom's Royal Society ruled in favor of Isaac Newton. Newton, whose impact is still felt in modern times, is a pioneer in science who established the law of universal gravitation, one of the basic concepts of physics. It is safe to say that modern scientific theories are built on top of his work. However, not many people know of the fact that Newton, a genius physicist and one of the world's greatest mathematicians, had devoted his life to predicting the end of the world, and had long ago calculated doomsday. Throughout history, there have been many different cultures and religions specifying a certain end-of-the-world scenario accompanied by a date. What all those scenarios have in common is that they are based on beliefs, and none come with a resounding reason as to why exactly the world will come to an end. The reason I bring this up is that there is an end-of-the-world theory that is not based on beliefs but on mathematics. The person who came up with this theory is none other than Isaac Newton, one of the biggest mathematicians in history. Newton's eschatological view is more of a formula rather than a prediction or a legend. We can see the solving process of this formula by taking a look at his notes from 1680 to 1704. Upon finding the same numbers appearing repeatedly in the 27th book of the Old Testament, the book of Daniel, and the final book of the New Testament, the book of Revelation, he came up with a hypothesis that they were closely linked to each other. Thinking that these numbers are suggesting the end of the world, he summed up the biblical text pertaining to the numbers into a total of 7 points. Drawing a conclusion from multiple premises is one of the methods used by mathematicians to solve problems. After turning the numbers, sentences, and words in the biblical text into a single formula, Newton was able to estimate the starting year. He then calculated that the doomsday will take place 2,300 days after the estimated date. As a conclusion, he referred to the year 2060 as the year of the apocalypse. Putting everything together, Newton finally published a book titled Observations upon the Prophecies of Daniel and the Apocalypse of St. John in 1704. However, as the book is only a portion of his 20-year-long research records, people presume that there are still more records left undiscovered. The presumption turned out to be true on December 9, 2020, when Newton's autograph manuscript notes on the Great Pyramid of Egypt was submitted to Sotheby's, a world-renowned auction house. These are really fascinating papers because in them you can see Newton trying to work out the secrets of the pyramids. He was trying to find proof for his theory of gravitation, but in addition, the ancient Egyptians were thought to have held the secrets of alchemy that have since been lost. Today, these seem disparate areas of study, but they didn't seem that way to Newton in the 17th century. The idea of science being an alternative to religion is a modern set of thoughts. Newton would not have believed that his scientific work could undermine religious belief. He was not trying to disprove Christianity. This is a man who spent a long time trying to establish the likely time period for the biblical apocalypse. That is why he was so interested in the pyramids. Consisting of 3 pages in total, Newton's research notes, which appear to have been written in the 1680s, delve into the secrets of the pyramids. Newton's center of attention was the royal cubit, a measurement unit used by ancient Egyptians. A cubit is a measure of length, like meters and centimeters, which enabled the ancient Egyptians to build giant pyramids with precision. Newton believed that the ancient Egyptian royal cubit is the same unit as the sacred cubit mentioned in the Old Testament, and that it was passed down to ancient Egyptians by ancient Jews. Moreover, he thought that ancient people were able to measure the circumference of the earth by using units, and that they were also able to measure the size of structures up to millimeters, thanks to their advanced civilization. This inference was an extremely important information and a point of contact for Newton, who was trying to calculate the doomsday by turning biblical texts into a formula. Ancient texts like this were the basis that enabled him to come up with hypotheses, make calculations, and systematize theories. Working on his research day and night, he was finally able to specify the year when the world will end. Unfortunately, it seems impossible to replicate and prove Newton's calculations in the present day. The reason is the lack of content. Aside from the fact that not all of his research notes survived this day, some parts of the published notes are burnt as well. Even if we had the entirety of them, many believe that this end-of-the-world calculation method has no academic value. Despite being deep into the study of the end of the world and pyramids at the time, Newton's rival, Robert Hooke's criticism on his ideas led him to withdraw from academia, thus leading to retirement. Some may show reluctance to the unscientific connotation in what we know as the end of the world. However, most of Newton's theories were practical and accurate. Newton's end of the world refers to the last day of the world's existence. This is somewhat in line with the prediction made by a first-generation AI named World 1, developed at MIT in 1973. At the time, World 1 had predicted that there would be a depletion of natural resources and quality of life would drop dramatically in 2020, and that civilization would collapse in around 2040. Isaac Newton, one of the greatest physicists in human history, and a theologian who delved into biblical texts. Will his last theory become reality in the distant future? This has been Strange Night.